The Banishing. Jake stood in the grand chamber of the alien rulers, his heart pounding in his chest. The room was filled with towering figures, their skin shimmering in strange colors under the bright lights. He felt small and powerless among them. The council had gathered to decide his fate, and the air was thick with tension. "Jake, you have broken our laws." One of the leaders, a tall creature with a long neck and sharp teeth, declared. Its voice echoed through the chamber. "Your actions have endangered our peace. We cannot let this go unpunished." Jake swallowed hard. He knew he had crossed a line when he refused to follow their orders. The aliens had treated him like a plaything since he arrived on their planet, expecting him to obey without question. But he was not just a puppet. He was human. He had his own thoughts and feelings, and he wanted to live freely. "Please, I didn't mean to cause trouble," Jake pleaded, his voice trembling. "I was only trying to protect myself." The aliens exchanged glances, their expressions unreadable. The council was known for its harsh decisions, and he could see that they were not moved by his words. Jake felt a chill run down his spine as he prepared for the worst. Finally, another ruler, shorter but with piercing blue eyes, spoke. "You will be sent to the planet Zorith. It is a place of danger, filled with creatures that will test your will to survive. If you return, we may reconsider your punishment. But know this, many have gone and never returned." Gasps filled the chamber. The other aliens murmured among themselves, clearly surprised by the decision. Jake's heart raced. Zorith. He had heard stories about that place, stories of monstrous beasts and deadly traps. He could feel the weight of their judgment pressing down on him. "Zorith is a death world," the tall ruler continued. "If you survive, it will be proof of your strength. If not, it will teach you a lesson." Jake clenched his fists, anger boiling inside him. He wanted to shout that he was not afraid, but the truth was that he was terrified. He had no choice. He could not show fear in front of these beings. Instead, he took a deep breath and stood tall. "Fine, send me to Zorith," he said, his voice steady. "I will survive. You will see." The council members stared at him, surprised by his defiance. A flicker of admiration passed through the crowd, but the tall ruler quickly squashed it. "Very well, human," it said, sounding amused. "You will leave at dawn. Prepare yourself for the journey ahead." As Jake left the chamber, he felt a mixture of fear and determination. The other aliens watched him with curiosity. He could hear their whispers as he walked away, talking about how humans were weak and foolish. But Jake knew that he was more than they thought. He had to believe that he could prove them wrong. The rest of the day dragged on, filled with anxiety. Jake packed a few supplies, knowing that he would need every bit of help on Zorith. He included a small knife he had hidden and a few dried rations. As the sun set, he gazed out of the window of his cell, watching the alien sky change colors. He thought about Earth, his home, and the life he had lost. In the quiet of the night, Jake made a vow to himself. No matter what happened on Zorith, he would not give up. He would fight, and he would survive. He thought about the creatures he might encounter, their sharp claws and fierce jaws, and felt a rush of determination. He would learn to adapt. He had to. When dawn broke, the council summoned him again. They led him to a small ship, a stark contrast to the grand chambers he had just left. It was a simple craft, barely large enough for one person. The aliens watched with a mix of amusement and disbelief as he boarded the vessel. As the ship lifted off, Jake felt the weight of the council's expectations. The sky blurred beneath him as he shot away from the planet, heading toward the dangerous world below. The ship shook violently, but he gripped the controls tightly, refusing to be scared. He was a human, and he would not be broken. Minutes later, the ship entered Zorith's atmosphere. The view outside was terrifying. Jagged mountains jutted out of the ground, and dark clouds loomed overhead. He could see flashes of lightning in the distance, illuminating the chaotic landscape. As he landed, the ship jolted, throwing him forward. Jake quickly regained his balance and opened the door. The air was thick with humidity, and the sounds of unknown creatures echoed around him. He took a deep breath, feeling the weight of fear and excitement mingling in his chest. Jake stepped out into the unknown, ready to face whatever challenges awaited him. The world was dangerous, but he was determined to survive. He would show the alien rulers that humanity was not to be underestimated. With Rex's spirit in his heart and a fierce resolve, Jake began his journey into Zorith, prepared to confront whatever lay ahead. "You said, into the wild." As Jake stepped onto the surface of Zorith, the ground felt uneven beneath his feet. The soil was soft and spongy, covered with strange, bioluminescent plants that glowed in shades of blue and green. He marveled at their beauty, but he knew better than to let it distract him. This world was dangerous, and every second counted. The sounds around him were a cacophony of rustles, growls, and the occasional screech. Jake scanned his surroundings, taking note of the towering cliffs that surrounded him. They seemed to watch him, looming like ancient sentinels. He could hear movement in the underbrush, and his instincts kicked in. He needed to find shelter and figure out his next move. "Stay calm," he whispered to himself. "You've faced tougher challenges before." Jake started walking cautiously, his senses alert. He moved toward a cluster of trees that appeared to provide some cover. The trunks were thick and twisted, with vines curling around them. As he stepped deeper into the foliage, he felt a strange mix of fear and excitement. This was his chance to prove himself, to show the alien rulers that he was not just some weak human. Suddenly, a loud roar echoed through the forest. Jake froze, his heart racing. The sound was powerful and primal, shaking the leaves around him. He turned slowly, trying to pinpoint the source. The roar sounded close, and instinct told him to hide. Jake quickly ducked behind a thick tree trunk, holding his breath. He could hear heavy footsteps approaching, thudding against the ground. He peered around the tree to see a massive creature crashing through the underbrush. It resembled a cross between a bear and a dinosaur, with thick, scaled skin and sharp teeth glistening in the dappled sunlight. The creature sniffed the air, its eyes scanning the area. Jake's heart raced as he pressed himself against the tree, praying it wouldn't find him. He could see every muscle in its body tensed, ready to pounce at any moment. He knew he had to remain perfectly still. After what felt like an eternity, the beast finally turned and lumbered away, the ground shaking with each step. Jake exhaled, his body shaking from the adrenaline. That had been too close. He knew he couldn't stay here. If he wanted to survive, he had to keep moving. Jake took a moment to collect himself and decided to follow the path the creature had taken. He hoped it would lead him to water or a safer area. He moved quietly, stepping lightly to avoid making noise. As he walked, he began to notice signs of other creatures, scratches on trees, claw marks, and strange footprints in the mud. This place was alive, teeming with life, and Jake felt both exhilarated and terrified. After some time, he stumbled upon a small stream, its water sparkling under the sunlight. Relief washed over him as he approached, crouching down to drink. He filled his hands with the cool, refreshing liquid, savoring the taste. This was the first time since he arrived on Zorith that he felt a sense of hope. Suddenly, he heard rustling nearby. Jake quickly stood up, scanning the area. His heart raced again as he spotted a small creature, a small furry animal with bright orange fur. It looked harmless, darting between the trees. "Hey there, little guy," Jake whispered, crouching down again. He felt a strange connection to this creature. It was a reminder of home, of the animals he had grown up with. Maybe he could make a friend in this wild world. To his surprise, the creature approached cautiously, its big eyes watching him with curiosity. Jake held out his hand, and after a moment, it sniffed his fingers. A grin spread across Jake's face as the little creature nuzzled his palm, seemingly deciding that he wasn't a threat. "Maybe we'll look out for each other," he said softly. He decided to name the creature Fuzz, a fitting name for its soft, fluffy appearance. With Fuzz by his side, Jake felt a renewed sense of confidence. They traveled deeper into the wilderness together, the little creature occasionally darting ahead to explore. Jake stayed alert, ready to react at a moment's notice, but Fuzz seemed to sense danger before Jake did, often leading him away from potential threats. Just as he began to catch his breath, the ground shook beneath him. The beast had stopped just outside their hiding spot, its sniffs echoing through the air as it searched for its prey. Jake's heart raced as he pressed himself against the cool stone, hoping it wouldn't find them. Fuzz looked up at him, its eyes wide with fear. Jake took a deep breath, trying to calm both himself and his tiny friend. "We can do this, Fuzz. We just need to outsmart it." He carefully scanned their surroundings, looking for an escape route. The beast was strong and relentless, but Jake had learned a few things during his time on Earth. He knew that brains could sometimes win against brawn. As the beast continued to sniff around, Jake spotted a large rock hanging precariously above the entrance. If he could somehow lure the creature toward it, he might be able to drop it and buy himself some time to escape. But how could he get the beast to follow him? Jake glanced at Fuzz, who was still staring at him with wide eyes. "I have an idea," he whispered. "Stay close and be ready to run." He picked up a sturdy branch from the ground, snapping it in half to create a sharp point. Then he waited for the perfect moment. The beast had turned its back to him, its massive body focused on searching for them. With a swift motion, Jake threw the branch toward the thicket to his left. It landed with a loud crack, drawing the beast's attention. As it turned, Jake shouted, "Now, Fuzz, run!" They darted out of the hiding spot, racing toward the entrance where the rock loomed above. The creature charged after them, its roar shaking the ground. Jake reached the rock just in time, quickly grabbing a loose stone and heaving it up against the boulder. The creature's weight caused it to stumble forward, just as Jake expected. The boulder tipped, and with a loud crash, it fell onto the beast, pinning it to the ground. Jake and Fuzz paused, breathless, staring at the fallen creature. Had they done it? Had they really defeated such a fearsome foe? "Wow, we did it!" Jake exclaimed, a grin spreading across his face. "We're alive." Fuzz chirped in excitement, and Jake scooped the little creature into his arms, hugging it tightly. They had overcome a great challenge, and he felt a surge of pride. Maybe he was not just a helpless human after all. As they stood together, looking at the beast trapped beneath the boulder, Jake realized that this was just the beginning of their adventure. They had proven their strength and ingenuity, and he was ready for whatever Zorith would throw at them next. With Fuzz by his side, he knew they could face anything. "You said, allies in the wild." As the sun dipped lower in the sky, casting long shadows over the rugged landscape, Jake and Fuzz took a moment to catch their breath. They had narrowly escaped death and proved their worth against a terrifying creature. But Jake knew their survival in this alien world was only just beginning. "Okay, buddy," Jake said, still holding Fuzz close. "We need to find a safe place to set up camp for the night." He scanned the area, looking for a suitable location that offered protection from any potential threats. Fuzz, seemingly invigorated by their earlier triumph, wriggled free from Jake's grasp and scampered ahead, nose to the ground, sniffing for something interesting. Jake followed closely, curious about what the little creature might find. They ventured further into the forest, where the trees grew denser, their trunks thick and gnarled. As they moved deeper, Jake's senses heightened. The sounds of Zorith were unfamiliar but alive. Birds, creatures with shimmering feathers, fluttered overhead, while strange insect-like beings buzzed around in vibrant colors. Suddenly, Fuzz paused and turned its head, listening intently. "What is it, Fuzz?" Jake whispered, feeling a rush of anticipation. The little creature darted off in a new direction, leading Jake through the thick underbrush. After a short walk, they emerged into a small clearing. In the center was a crystal-clear pond, shimmering in the fading sunlight. The sight was beautiful, a stark contrast to the wild chaos they had just escaped. Jake's mouth dropped open in awe. "This place is perfect," he exclaimed, glancing at Fuzz, who was already splashing around in the water. "We can rest here for the night." Jake quickly gathered some sticks and leaves, building a small fire pit by the edge of the pond. He felt a sense of accomplishment as he lit the fire, the flames flickering brightly against the gathering darkness. It was a small comfort, but it gave him hope in this alien world. As the fire crackled, Fuzz returned, shaking water off its fur. Jake chuckled. "You're quite the swimmer, aren't you?" He reached down to scratch Fuzz behind the ears, earning a happy chirp in return. As night fell, the stars began to twinkle overhead, filling the sky with shimmering lights. Jake sat by the fire, feeling both small and significant under the vastness of the universe. He reflected on how far he had come since arriving on Zorith. The alien rulers had sent him to fail, but he was not ready to give up. Suddenly, a rustling sound interrupted his thoughts. Jake's heart raced as he turned to the direction of the noise, fear gripping him. He thought of the beast they had just escaped, wondering if it had friends. Out from the shadows stepped a creature unlike any he had seen before. It was tall and slender, with smooth, iridescent skin that shimmered in shades of blue and green. Its eyes were large and curious, and it moved with a grace that both fascinated and frightened Jake. "Who are you?" Jake asked, his voice steady but cautious. He stood up, ready to defend himself if necessary. The creature tilted its head, seemingly studying him. Then, to Jake's astonishment, it spoke in a soft, melodic voice. "I am Lyra, from the Zorithan tribe. Why do you disturb our sacred pond?" Jake blinked in surprise. This was the first time he had encountered an alien being who could speak his language. "I didn't mean to intrude. My name is Jake, and this is my friend, Fuzz." He gestured to the little creature, who was eyeing Lyra with wide eyes. Lyra's gaze shifted to Fuzz, and a small smile formed on its lips. "Your companion is interesting," it said. "You are brave to come here alone, human. Many would not dare to enter these woods at night." "I'm not alone," Jake replied, puffing out his chest. "I have Fuzz here with me." He felt a surge of pride at the thought of their bond, how they had faced danger together. Lyra stepped closer, curiosity shining in its eyes. "You defeated the beast that lurked nearby. That is a great accomplishment." Jake nodded, recounting the tale of how they had tricked the creature and escaped. Lyra listened intently, nodding in understanding. "You have shown courage, human. Not many would stand against such a fearsome foe. You may be an ally to my people." Jake raised an eyebrow, intrigued. "Your people? What do you mean?" Lyra explained that the Zorithans had been watching the conflict between the alien rulers and the humans. They were curious about the human spirit, especially after hearing stories of bravery and resilience. "We believe you may help us. The rulers are growing more oppressive, and we need strong allies." Jake felt a flicker of hope. Maybe he could be more than just a survivor. Maybe he could help others. "What do you need?" he asked, his voice steady. Lyra smiled warmly. "There are those among us who resist the rulers. We need someone who can lead and unite our people. Your experience on Earth gives you wisdom. Together, we can fight back." Jake's heart raced at the idea. This was a chance to change everything. With Lyra by his side, they could gather allies and build a movement against the oppressive rulers. "I'm in," he declared, determination shining in his eyes. As they made plans for the next day, Fuzz curled up by the fire, eyes slowly closing. Jake felt a sense of belonging for the first time since arriving on Zorith. He was not alone anymore. He had allies, a purpose, and a friend. The journey ahead would be difficult, but together they would face whatever challenges lay in wait. With hope in his heart and a new ally at his side, Jake knew he was ready to change the course of his fate, and perhaps the fate of Zorith as well. "You said, gathering allies. The first rays of sunlight broke through the trees, casting a warm glow over the clearing. Jake woke up to the gentle chirping of alien birds and the soft rustle of leaves. He stretched, feeling a mix of excitement and nervousness about the day ahead. "Good morning, Fuzz," Jake said, glancing down at the little creature curled up beside the smoldering fire. Fuzz blinked sleepily before getting up and shaking off the remnants of the night. Lyra was already awake, standing by the pond, gazing at its shimmering surface. Jake could see a look of determination on its face. "Today, we gather our allies," Lyra said, turning to Jake. "We must move quickly before the rulers notice your presence here." "Where do we start?" Jake asked, feeling a thrill of anticipation. He was ready to take on this challenge, to rally others against their common enemy. "There is a small village nearby," Lyra explained. "The Zorathan people there have suffered under the ruler's tyranny for too long. If we can convince them to join us, we will have a strong base of support." "Let's go then," Jake replied, a sense of purpose igniting within him. He packed up their small camp, ensuring Fuzz was securely by his side. With Lyra leading the way, they ventured deeper into the Zorathan forest. As they walked, Lyra shared more about the Zorathans. "Our people are skilled in many things: crafting, healing, and combat. But fear keeps them from fighting back. The rulers have spread lies to control us." Lyra's voice was tinged with frustration. "I understand that fear," Jake said, recalling his own struggles back on Earth. "But together, we can show them that they don't have to be afraid anymore." After a brisk walk through the lush forest, they arrived at the village. It was a cluster of homes built from natural materials, blending seamlessly with the environment. The villagers looked up as Jake and Lyra approached, their expressions a mix of curiosity and caution. Lyra stepped forward, raising its arms in a gesture of peace. "People of the Zorathan village, I bring a visitor, a human who has shown great bravery. He wishes to help us unite against the ruler's oppression." Whispers spread among the villagers. Jake stood behind Lyra, feeling the weight of their gazes. "Hello," he called out, trying to project confidence. "I'm Jake. I know you've suffered, and I want to help change that." One of the villagers, an elderly Zorathan with deep-set eyes and a weary face, stepped forward. "Why should we trust you, human? Your kind sent our people into battle and turned their backs on us." "I know what you've been through," Jake replied earnestly. "I was sent here to fail, but I escaped. I know that together we can fight back and reclaim our freedom. I'm not here to betray you. I'm here to stand with you." A murmur of discussion rippled through the crowd. Finally, a young Zorathan stepped up, its vibrant skin glowing with determination. "What do you propose we do?" Jake took a deep breath, eager to share his plan. "We can train together, share our skills, and prepare for the ruler's next move. If we unite, we can become a force they can't ignore." Lyra nodded, adding, "We must first gather those who are willing to fight. The rulers need to see that we will not be silenced anymore." The villagers exchanged glances, uncertainty still lingering in their expressions. Jake could sense their hesitation, but also their hope. "I know it's scary, but if we don't act, things will only get worse. Let's show them that we can stand up for ourselves." Slowly, one by one, hands began to rise. The elderly Zorathan, once skeptical, now said, "I will join you." Another villager followed, then another. Soon, a small group had formed, all ready to take a stand alongside Jake. Jake's heart swelled with pride. "Thank you. Together, we will make a difference." As they gathered in a circle, Jake shared his vision for the future. "We can train together, share knowledge, and learn from each other. Each of you has skills that can help us in this fight." One of the villagers, a skilled craftsman, spoke up. "I can create weapons and tools from the materials here. If we can gather enough resources, we can make ourselves stronger." "Great idea," Jake exclaimed. "And we can practice combat strategies. I may be human, but I've learned a few things that could help us in a fight." The group started to buzz with excitement, ideas flowing and plans forming. As they discussed tactics, Jake felt a sense of belonging he hadn't experienced since arriving on Zorth. He was no longer just a human lost in an alien world. He was part of something bigger, something meaningful. As night approached, they made plans for the following days. Jake looked around at the hopeful faces of his new allies. He felt a warmth in his chest, a belief that together they could accomplish anything. Lyra stood by his side, a proud smile on its face. "You have done well, Jake. You've inspired them." Jake chuckled softly. "I couldn't have done it without you. We're in this together now." As they prepared to head back to the village, Jake looked up at the stars, shining brightly in the Zorthan sky. Each twinkle felt like a promise of what was to come. They had a long road ahead, but with allies by their side, hope blossomed like never before. Together, they would stand against the rulers and fight for their freedom. The training begins. The morning sun rose over the Zorthan village, casting a golden hue over the treetops. Jake awoke early, excitement bubbling inside him as he remembered the plans they had made the night before. Today was the day they would start their training, transforming hope into action. Fuzz was already up, bouncing around the small hut where they had slept. The little creature chirped happily, its tiny tail wagging in anticipation. "Good morning, Fuzz," Jake greeted, stretching and shaking off the remnants of sleep. Ready for a big day. As Jake stepped outside, he was met by the sight of villagers bustling about, preparing for the training. The air was filled with the sounds of chatter and laughter, a stark contrast to the whispers of fear that had lingered just days before. It filled Jake with a sense of purpose. Lyra approached him, its eyes sparkling with determination. "Are you ready for this, Jake?" it asked. "Today, we will teach them how to fight back." "Absolutely," Jake replied, feeling the surge of confidence. "Let's do this." They gathered everyone in a clearing just outside the village, surrounded by towering trees. Jake stood at the front, taking a deep breath to calm his nerves. "Thank you all for coming today," he began, his voice steady. "Today, we start our journey to reclaim our freedom." The villagers, now filled with hope and courage, looked at him expectantly. He felt the weight of their trust and knew he had to make it count. "We will begin with some basic training. I'll teach you how to defend yourselves, and Lyra will help with strategy and teamwork." With a nod, Jake demonstrated some simple combat moves. He started with stances, showing them how to hold their ground. The Zorathans watched closely, their eyes filled with a mix of curiosity and eagerness. Lyra took over, guiding the villagers in practicing the stances Jake had shown them. The Zorathans moved awkwardly at first, but with Lyra's encouragement, they began to find their rhythm. Laughter filled the air as they stumbled and fumbled, but each mistake was met with cheers and applause from their fellow villagers. After the stances, Jake moved on to some basic techniques. He demonstrated how to strike and defend, using Fuzz as a stand-in opponent. The villagers watched in awe as Jake pretended to attack Fuzz, who cleverly dodged and darted away. "See, even Fuzz knows how to evade." Jake laughed, and the crowd joined him. As they practiced, Jake felt the atmosphere shift. The villagers were no longer just listening. They were engaging, trying to learn and improve. Their laughter filled the clearing, echoing through the trees, blending with the sounds of nature around them. After a few hours, Jake called for a break. He noticed some of the villagers looking a bit weary but pleased with their progress. "You're all doing great. Remember, it's not just about strength. It's about using your surroundings and working together." Lyra nodded, stepping forward to address the group. "Now we will focus on teamwork. In battles, we must support each other. Let's practice working in pairs. Jake and I will demonstrate." Jake teamed up with Lyra, while the villagers formed pairs of their own. They practiced combining their movements, ensuring they could protect one another in case of an attack. As they trained, Jake noticed a growing sense of camaraderie among the villagers. They were starting to feel like a team. After several more hours of training, Jake could see the exhaustion on their faces, but also the determination in their eyes. They were willing to push through the fatigue, eager to learn and ready to stand against their oppressors. "Let's wrap up for today," Jake announced. "You've all worked incredibly hard. I'm proud of you." The villagers cheered, and the energy in the clearing was electric. They were excited about their progress and what lay ahead. As they began to disperse, Jake pulled Lyra aside. "I think they're really starting to get it. It feels good to see them come together." "Yes," Lyra replied, its expression thoughtful. "But we must not become complacent. The rulers will not wait for us to prepare. We must continue to gather allies and strengthen our skills." Jake nodded, understanding the weight of Lyra's words. "We should reach out to other villages. The more support we can gather, the stronger we'll be." "That's a wise plan," Lyra agreed. "I can help you talk to the other leaders. We must show them that there is hope, that we can fight back." Later that evening, as the stars twinkled above, Jake sat by the fire with Fuzz curled up in his lap. The villagers were celebrating their first day of training, laughter and music filling the air. It warmed Jake's heart to see them so joyful. Suddenly, a thought struck him. "Lyra," he said, looking up from the fire, "what if we organize a demonstration of our skills? Show the other villages what we've learned." Lyra's eyes brightened. "That could be effective. A demonstration would inspire others to join us. It would show them the power of unity." "Let's plan it for tomorrow," Jake suggested, feeling a wave of excitement. "We can invite the nearby villages to watch and hopefully join us in our fight." With a sense of purpose, they began discussing the details of the demonstration. Jake felt a renewed sense of hope and determination. They were building something together, a movement that could challenge the rulers and bring freedom to their people. As the fire crackled and the stars shone above, Jake knew this was just the beginning. The fight for freedom was far from over, but with each passing day they were growing stronger, and together they would face whatever challenges lay ahead. The demonstration. The sun rose over the Zorathan village, casting a warm glow on the faces of the villagers who gathered in the clearing. Today was the day they had been waiting for, the demonstration. Excitement buzzed in the air as everyone prepared to show the neighboring villages what they had learned. Jake stood at the front, his heart racing with anticipation. He looked around at the villagers, their faces filled with determination. They had trained hard over the past days, and now it was time to put their skills to the test. Lyra approached him, its eyes bright with enthusiasm. "Are you ready for this, Jake? This will show everyone how strong we've become." "Ready as I'll ever be," Jake replied, trying to mask his nerves. "Let's make it count." As they waited for the neighboring villagers to arrive, Jake and Lyra discussed the plan. They had decided to showcase a series of techniques they had practiced, emphasizing teamwork and strategy. It was vital to impress the onlookers, showing them that they could stand against their rulers. The first to arrive were a group of Zorathan villagers from a nearby community. They watched with curiosity as Jake and Lyra greeted them. "Welcome. Today, we will show you how we are preparing to fight back against our oppressors," Jake announced, gesturing to the clearing filled with eager participants. More villagers began to arrive, gathering around the clearing, and soon, a small crowd formed. The energy was palpable, and Jake could feel the anticipation rising. With a deep breath, he called for attention. "Thank you all for coming. Today, we will demonstrate the skills we have learned and show you the power of unity. Together, we can reclaim our freedom." The crowd erupted in cheers, and Jake's heart swelled with pride. He looked at Lyra, who nodded in encouragement, and then he turned to the villagers, ready to start the demonstration. Jake and Lyra led the villagers through the various techniques they had practiced. They showed how to defend against attacks, how to strike effectively, and most importantly, how to work as a team. The Zorathans moved with more confidence than ever before, showcasing their progress. As they practiced, Jake noticed a change in the crowd. The onlookers were not just passive observers. They were engaged, cheering and clapping as the villagers performed their moves. The energy grew as they demonstrated the importance of teamwork, executing drills that required cooperation and coordination. After an hour of training and demonstrations, Jake felt a surge of excitement. "Now let's do a final showcase," he announced. "We will perform a mock battle to show how we can work together against a common enemy." The villagers paired up and took their places in the clearing. Jake positioned himself as the enemy, while Lyra coordinated the villagers' movements. They executed the moves flawlessly, showcasing their hard work and unity. The cheers from the crowd grew louder as they watched the villagers move in sync, supporting each other with every step. In the mock battle, Jake pretended to attack, and the villagers skillfully countered, demonstrating the techniques they had learned. Their movements were fluid and confident, and for the first time, Jake felt like they were truly a team. The crowd roared with applause, and Jake's heart swelled with pride. As the demonstration came to an end, Jake called for a break. The villagers, flushed with excitement and accomplishment, gathered in a circle, catching their breath. Lyra stood beside Jake, grinning widely. "That was amazing. They really came together, yes," Jake replied, filled with adrenaline. "This is just the beginning. We can inspire more villages to join us. Imagine what we can achieve with even more allies." Lyra nodded, eyes sparkling with determination. "We should invite other villages to train with us. Together, we can become an unstoppable force." After a short break, Jake addressed the crowd again. "Thank you all for being here today. Your strength and courage inspire us. We must continue to grow stronger and unite against our rulers. Together, we can reclaim our freedom." The crowd erupted in cheers once more, and Jake felt the momentum building. They were no longer just a group of villagers. They were a movement, a force that could challenge the oppressive rulers. As the day turned to dusk, Jake watched the villagers mingle with the visitors, sharing stories and laughter. The atmosphere was filled with hope and camaraderie, a stark contrast to the fear that had gripped them just days before. Suddenly, a figure emerged from the crowd. It was one of the leaders from a neighboring village, an imposing Zorathan named Kelos. He approached Jake with a serious expression. "You have done something remarkable here today," Kelos said, his voice low. "I have seen the potential in your villagers. We want to join you." Jake's heart raced. "Really? That would be incredible. Together, we can make a real difference." Kelos nodded. "We are tired of living in fear. If you can unite the villages, we can create a force that the rulers cannot ignore." With renewed determination, Jake extended his hand to Kelos. "Let's work together. We will gather more allies and show them the strength of our unity." As the sun set behind the trees, painting the sky with hues of orange and pink, Jake felt a sense of purpose wash over him. They were building something powerful, a community that could stand against their oppressors. With Kelos and the support of the neighboring villages, the fight for freedom was no longer a distant dream. It was becoming a reality. Together, they would rise against the rulers, armed with the skills they had honed and the strength of their unity. As the stars began to twinkle in the night sky, Jake knew that the journey ahead would be challenging. But with every step, they were one step closer to reclaiming their freedom.